Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. So good to see so many of you joining us this afternoon. As I can see, there are 270 of us here. About the speakers for today, it gave me great pleasure to introduce Brother Choon. He is the Group Managing Director of Chin Group. He transformed the company from a traditional family-run cement trader to a building materials conglomerate today. He grew the company from 70 employees to now more than 2,000 employees with over 1 billion ringgit in revenue in 10 years. The company was successfully listed in the Malaysian Bursa in 2016, and Choon became the youngest listed company CEO in Malaysia at the age of only 32. He was awarded the 2017 Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year, breaking the 16-year history of Ernst Young Entrepreneur Award Malaysia as the youngest country winner at age 33. Brother Choon's growth journey for the company included growing the business upstream into an integrated building materials provider through manufacturing of building materials and downstream into property development, building modular home systems, and solar engineering, procurement, and constructions. This young man went from gangster to CEO of 4 public listed companies, 2 IPOs and 2 acquisitions. He actually started to learn basic English only at age of 16 and enrolled into secondary school at 17. Today, he just turned 37 years young, only a couple of months ago. He's happily married with 4 young children. You might ask, how did he manage to achieve all this? I'm sure all of us are eager to find out. All right, let's jump right in to listen to Brother Choon, how he overcame crisis in business and also his personal life. So Brother Choon, over to you. The floor is yours.
For your generous introduction. Every time I receive invitation to speak and to share, I feel very uncomfortable. I'm not the person that can openly speak and share, but I always feel that I'm the debtor to the Lord, and I have no reason to reject, any speaking opportunity to testify Him how He saved my life. So that's where I am today, and I speak for a couple of FGB event. I'm very encouraged. I want to use the word encouraged to see the FGB brothers have been doing this weekly to organize meeting, lunch, and this requires persistent value. It's not easy, especially doing this kind of invitation. I would believe that you guys receive a lot of rejection every time you guys send the invitation to friends come to the whatever event. I'm very encouraged by what you guys been doing. So today I will share a little bit about my testimony and my business, and last I will share about how I overcome crisis and in the past and also in the present. As Brother Raymond has shared that I'm actually a school dropout. I dropped from school when I was 13 years old. I was born in this up north of Kedah. My grandfather started this hardware shop at this small town. About 45 driving distance from Malostar. And I remember the whole family was staying in that hardware shop, a typical hardware shop where people stay on the second floor and we use the ground floor for our business. And when our whole family moved to this Malostar, I dropped off from school. I joined a gangster. I became a drug addict. And for that couple of years, except for cocaine, basically I tried all the drugs at a very young age. And I still remember that, when I was 14, 15 years old, at one night, I took, I can't remember how many ecstasy. I think probably more than 7 and 8, And on that night, I feel that I was dying. That was one of the typical night, I gone through. I don't know how many nights I have gone through when I was young. And of course, being the eldest in the family, my family very disappointed about me, but they couldn't do anything about me. I never listened to them. And I also had been witnessed someone being murdered in front of me when I was 14 years old. So I would use the word, I have never seen such a worst person in my life, a typical Malaysian teenagers who studied at secondary school, I was the only one back in Alostar that, among my friends that did study secondary school. My typical day would be sleep in the morning, wake up at night. So, and I was doing this for about a couple of years until 16 years old. So I attended Chinese school when I was young. I dropped off from my secondary one, and I couldn't know how to speak a basic English, And my mom was asking me, I want to study those basic language, English for a couple of months in Singapore. And that's where I told myself, since there was nothing for me in Alostar, so myself I go to Singapore to play. My motivation just want to go to Singapore to play. So that's where I went to Singapore, and but because you see, I was below 18 years old. I in Singapore law, I have to stay with a Singaporean as my guardian. So this Singapore guardian sent me to this language school. Besides, I attended language school to study basic English. I also went for this tuition center, which was just 5-minute walking distance from my house. At the age of 16 years old, my first few English word I learned was eat, at, eaten. For the first time in my life, I know that eat has a different way of written it. And I remember I started to study those basic mathematics, And there was this tuition teacher. I'm very grateful about her. Every time she teach me those basic language and mathematics, she will hold me for another 1-2 hours to share the gospel with me. I was so grateful for her. I was really curious because of how she did to me. When I was young, I was sort of like a rejected kid, among my family members, except my mom that still have hope on me, and I have little friend at my same age. So I'm grateful for what this tuition teacher has done to me. I curious about the religion that she believed, and I decided one day I pay a visit of this church, which was just half and walking distance from my house. So I realized it because of the love that she shown me that lead me to have a curious about this faith. Yeah. I didn't attend a proper education, so my intellectual thinking was pretty weak. So even though I went to the church, I couldn't really understand what was the pastor preaching about. But one thing for sure, that I somehow had the feeling of peace. I don't know how to explain that feeling. The feeling of peace that I had. I never had that in my life before, until that for the 16 years. And I decided to came back again. And in the couple of months' time, I feel that this faith potential can save my life. This God potential can save my life. And I decided to give my life to God. Without really understand the Bible. Without really understand what this faith is all about. But my feeling lead me to believe that I need to give my life to God. So after became a Christian, and for the first time in my life that I have a self-reflection that I feel that I want to start all my life again. I cannot just study a couple of months of language and came back to Malaysia and do nothing again, right? And I feel that for a typical Malaysian would finish their secondary school. But I already at the age of 16 years old. So my guardian told me, just give a try, So for the balance of 6 months, I attended intensive language school. Every day I need to memorize dozens of this vocabulary to speak out whatever I have not learned in 6 months time, so that in order for me to catch at the end of the year to sit for the exam for the government school. So at the end of the years, I attended 7 government school exams, and none of them accepted me except one. And so I was so excited. So subsequent year, when I was 17 years old, I so excited finally I can attend secondary one. But the first day in the school, I came to realize I was the eldest student in the entire school. My schoolmate only about that high, I still remember. Because in Singapore, you're able to finish your secondary school in 4 years time. So most of them have already graduated. So that's how I started very late. But I think that is a right place for me. God knows that that's a right place for me, because I got to learn over those basic stuff again, You know what those basic stuff besides eaten? The basic stuff is like no sleep at night, wake up in the morning. Those basic stuff. So back then I don't have a big goal. My only goal was in my life back then was I want to finish my secondary school. That's all. To be like a typical Malaysian. I never thought of university. I just at least finish secondary school. At least I can, go back to Malaysia to tell my parents that, I finally became a new person. I achieved my first goal in my life, after 4 years, finished my secondary school. That was a big achievement in my life. I was so excited. And by the time I finished, all my friends have already graduated from university. So I look around, I feel that it's time for me to go for a second objective, second goal. So that's where I decided to went on to study in university. I went to Melbourne to study finance and marketing. So again, when I first went into the uni, I became the eldest student in the lecture hall again. Yeah, but I know that I couldn't fail. So I remember I working very hard. I wasn't a smart student. Every time before the exam, I need to lock myself up in the library to study from the morning until evening. So while I'm still in my last year, I think I only went there for 2 years. On the 3rd year, I one day I received a call from the family that my father wasn't feeling well, and I was told to come back to Malaysia to look after him, and also to also look after the business. I was very hesitant, simply because you guys have seen that, it took me so much effort, to study, and but in the end, I make up my mind I came back to Malaysia, and I fortunate that I able to finish my last year in Penang District College. District College had the twinning program with Melbourne Deakin University. So that's how I came back to Malaysia. Without any working experience, the only job that I've done in Melbourne was a waitress. And the second job probably I had done very well was became a gangster. So, and of course, you know, don't have working experience, neither I have managing anyone else. So I came back to Malaysia. That time my father was doing pretty well in running the cement trading business. He had been doing cement trading business in the past 20 over years, you know. After he took over my grandfather's hardware shop, you know, he ventured to cement trading plus logistic business. So, and if you've seen what we have achieved so far, and you know that it's definitely not for me. Yeah. And now you know that why I say that I'm debtor to God. Yeah. I will have, you know, died on the street. You know, some of my friends had literally died on the street. And I would have became, you know, no one's, you know, in this small town of Alostar. Of course, today we have grown way more than I can imagine compared to 10 years ago. Today we have, I think, close to 3,000 people. And then we did 2 IPO and 2 acquisition. Today, our business are in the building material manufacturing business. We produce all kinds of building material manufacturing business. We literally able to produce entire houses, you know, lightweight blocks, you know, dry mix, precast, reinforcement, wire mesh, door, and what else? And the sewage, precast, and ready-mix concretes. And the second business we are in property development business, and we now very much focus in the Klang Valley, we have completed 2 high-rise, and then in the midst of doing 2 high-rise, and I think our property development business are doing quite well also. Right now we have a GDV or land bank of 3 billion, and that's the second business. Third business we are in is a signature business. I did the acquisition just this year. That's where we want to venture into from hardware business into home and living business, into retail. So that's an inspiration for us to go into B2C segment business. That's where we acquire signature. And we also into renewable energy business. And the last that recent venture will be a construction business. So, and in every, I would say that comfortably say that, you know, it wasn't God that I wouldn't be who I am today. Yeah. So for those entrepreneur, I can briefly share how we able to grow, you know, so fast in the past 10 years. So that is very much to also give you you guys a glimpse of our strategy, how we put it through. So I would say that, you know, when I first came back, my father was running cement trading business, and I really appreciate the platform that he had built for me. So the first 3 years, we transformed the business to be a one-stop building material distributor. Basically, from just selling cement, we sell all kinds of building material. So the strategy is very simple. Now venture into multiple products and corporatize by hiring professional managers in every state of Malaysia. So in very short period of 3 to 4 years, we became Malaysia's largest building material distributor. That gives us massive of cash flow, working capital to invest in our manufacturing business. That is the first success that we achieved in very short period of 3 years time. Then we see that now we do well in the trading, we want to go into the upstream. That's where we further invest in 7, 8 manufacturing business through new setup, through acquisition. And we also did it very well. It's simply we cut short our learning curve by bringing in the right people to managing all these different kind of building material manufacturing business. And the third will be diversify into the high growth business, go into the property development business, and also go into renewable energy business. The diversification strategy also make us tap into those high growth industry. And of course, and the property business in the past 10 years has been booming, also help us overall. Plus our 2 IPO also give us enough capital to do many more M&A activity. So that is what that we have achieved in this 10 years time. So today, the topic that I want to share that relevant for everyone, even though today you are not owning a business by yourself, or even you're not an entrepreneur by yourself, I think this topic is very relevant for everyone. I think Brother Raymond have actually already identified the topic for me to share, how to overcome the crisis. Supposedly, I want to share the Bible verse on Matthew, talking about how Peter walking on the water. First, instead of going to the Matthew chapter 22, I want to bring everyone to this Bible proverb chapter 4 verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flow from it. In Mandarin 箴言第4章第23节，你要保守你心，胜过保守一切，因为一生的果效是由心发出。This is so powerful. Why is so powerful? Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flow from it. If you look at the Mandarin one, 一生的果效是由心发出. It means that you need to protect, guard your heart. Your heart is your emotion. And for everything else, your emotion is 因为一生的果效是由心发出. So today I want to talk about the thing that how I overcome crisis, in the past 10 years. I want to talk a little bit on the fear, because I know that out of the 200 old people here, many of us feel with fear, fear. We have so much uncertainty in the country, uncertain about pandemic, uncertain about the virus, uncertain about the country, everything. But before we talk about right now, what the situation we are feeling, I want to bring you guys back to the first fear that I have when I was 22 years old, when I received a call from my family that asking me of coming back to Malaysia. My fear was, am I going to drop what I've studied so hard and came back to Malaysia? The further the fear I have was, now my family business got into the trouble. Is that what my father had built so far will be eventually go down to the drain? After I came back to Malaysia, how am I going to, there's so much uncertainty in my life. I have tremendous of fear. But what made me decided to come back to Malaysia was one of the prayer that God spoke to me. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. And on that prayer, I decided to make up my mind and came back to Malaysia. I see myself so small that, I think that I don't have the capability to manage a business, but God had raised me up, you know. In less than 10 years' time, I brought my family business into IPO. And I start to see that what I have gone through when I was young give me the ability to manage my emotion in the past 10 years. You know, in this Bible verse, it talk about we need to protect our emotion more than protect anything else, because the entire life of our result is all coming from emotion. You know, I was getting to know this very much when I started to face a lot of obstacle issue in the family, in the business. We have more than 20 old business. You can imagine that if, let's say, in this entire week, I'm running for my business meeting, how many negative news that I would tend to receive day by day, every day. The first day I came back, there's so much negative issue. But the moment I know that if I'm able to protect my emotion, I will not have negative behavior that lead me to have a negative result. Because you see, with all the, if today we want to have a positive result in our life, positive result in our career, in our relationship, in our health, first, we need to have positive behavior, isn't that right? So from the positive behavior, we need to have a right perspective, isn't that? Right perspective is coming from where? Right perspective is coming from a positive emotion. So I always protect my emotion that I will never want to have any negative emotion. That's what I've been doing in the past 10 years. What are those negative emotions? Disappointment, angers, you know, pride. And I feel that right now is a very relevant for everyone, is because right now, many of us have so much disappointment about our country, so much fearful about what will happen in the pandemic. But I tell you what, you know, I always encourage my friend. Today, I also want to encourage every one of you here. Regardless, you have so much disappointment about our country, but I tell you that I have always had the hope for our country. I always believe that whoever on the power, he always want to do a good thing for our country. And because of the hope that I have for our country, lead me to have a hope for my business. When I have a hope for my business, even though when I lock down, I'm still working very hard. I'm waiting for the opportunity to open up so that I can grow the business because of the hope. But if today you are disappointed about the country, disappointed about the industry, you know, most of them doesn't want to do anything else, because the disappointment lead us to have a disappointed behavior. So when you have a disappointed behavior, how can we expect to have a disappointed a positive result? So started from I came back. Because of what I've gone through when I was young, I have made all the mistakes. That lead me today, when I look at the mistake, I told myself it was just a feedback to me. So that's where I never gave up. I keep on trying. You know, when I first came back, I keep on trying. I have a lot of wrong hiring. I said, it's okay. I hope for the next hiring will be a success one. I venture into the wrong business. I tell myself, it's okay. I think I will learn from it. I hope for the better one. So when I screw up in a lot of the issue in the business, I will continue to stay positive and still believe that I will pull it through. Because of all this positive emotion, that able to lead us to where we are today. It's the origin from the emotion. As this Bible verse says, get your emotion, for everything you do flow from it. You know, for the Chinese one, even so powerful, it mentioned that 一生的果效, your whole life result is coming from your heart. You know, our heart is our emotion. You know, in Chinese, we say 心痛, but the heart is not actually pain. We have a feeling of feeling pain in our heart. It means that our emotions are feeling pain. So our whole life result is actually coming from our heart. So that is, I think, a perspective that I think I want to share with every one of you here. That, you know, regardless today you're the entrepreneur or you're working for someone else, guard your heart. For everything you do, flow from it. If you see, avoid those negative environment. What are those negative environment? The social media. If the social media, anyone I condemning about the country, don't see it, because it doesn't help you at all. By complaining the government, it doesn't help you. It will even make you disappointed about the country. If you're disappointed about country, how will you able to see the opportunity? You will not see the opportunity. For the businessman, I want to urge you, don't disappointed about your country. Don't disappointed about your industry. If you feel disappointment, how will you see the opportunity? I see a lot of opportunity because I hope for the country. The moment you're disappointed about the country, you're disappointed about the industry, and you disappointed the company that you work for, will you make you stay motivated to wake up each day in the morning, feel motivated going to work? It will not make you feel motivated going to work because of your negative emotion. You know, a lot of the study has shown that a cancer, some of the people eat healthily, work out a lot, but they still got the cancer. And the research has shown that our disease is actually coming from negative emotion. So the negative emotion not only crush your life, it's also crush your health. And it basically crush everything of your life. That is where I always guarded my heart. But I can't help myself from some of the season I stay at, I having a negative emotion. When I was having a negative emotion, what did I do? I wouldn't let it to stay for a 24 hour. I will speak to my friend, I will speak, pastor, I will read book. I will make myself whatever it takes, I will stay motivated again. Because the moment you are feeling negative, you wouldn't want to do anything. You know, it's like, the negative emotion is like a rubbish in your living room, and you leave it there. You know, in this pandemic, I have met one of my friends. He told me that last year MCO, he was quarrel with the wife for 2 months. They had never spoke to each other. They almost came to the decision want to divorce. And after then when I realized, I was wonder, I can imagine in that 2 months, how you have gone through that. You are living in the very negative emotion that you are actually suffering. It's like you are having a rubbish in your living room. You are not cleared up. So negative emotion is actually a rubbish in your living room. Will you want to let this rubbish in your living room? But a lot of people choose to let the rubbish in the living room and not to clear it. So today I want to urge you, if you feel that you are disappointed, if you feel that you are angry, find a way to solve your negative emotion. A lot of the negative emotion is just the perspective how we see the world. Everything happen in our life, it has a neutral meaning, it doesn't mean good or bad to us. You know, changing of government, this pandemic, it has no negative meaning. And it can only mean negative to us when you put the meaning on this event. If today I put the event, I have encountered this business failure, if I able to put the meaning, okay, I learned from the mistake. Now, this event has become meaningful to me. It became positive. So it's also mean that we can turn all the event into positive, and from there it can lead us to have a positive emotion. When we have positive emotion, we will have a positive perspective. Positive perspective lead us to have a positive behavior and eventually give us a positive result. 因为一生的果效是由心发出。Your life, your health, your career, your relationship is coming from your heart, from the emotion. That's where I think, if you ask me the secret of how I'm managing the business, the secret of how I, able to grow this, I think is coming from the heart. I wasn't a smart student, as I shared it earlier. I need to have a long hour of studying before I can get a good result. When I have a positive emotion, I keep on trying. I never give up. I keep on trying. Eventually, I will find the right strategy, find the right direction. When I have a positive emotion, the thing that I don't know, I keep on learning. From a trader, I don't know manufacturing. I keep on learning. I know the manufacturing. I don't know property development. I keep on learning. From not knowing a construction, I keep on learning until I'm able to learn the business. But if today I wasn't have a right emotion, I couldn't do all this. Because by doing all this, there's so much of the obstacle, so much of the failure, so much of the negative feedback that we are encountering in what we are doing. So today, protect our emotion is also protect our environment. Go to the environment where it will give you positive emotion. I think FGB is a right platform where we come to a platform where everyone openly to share how they have gone through the difficulty, how they overcome the obstacle. And we come to this FGB platform, we also have the opportunity to be grateful for everything we have. The moment I am grateful for the thing I have, I wouldn't gone into depression. The moment the only reason that we go into depression is when I start feeling not grateful. So grateful and depressed doesn't come together. So regards all the crises that happening in this 1-2 years, if we really look back in our life, isn't that God had blessed us so much? Yeah. For those Christians here, why we are here today is because we have seen what God had transformed our life. We have seen God have done something in our life, so that today we continue to be faithful in believing in Him. Yeah. So isn't that good enough for us to stay positive, to stay faithful, to stay hopeful for our government, to stay hopeful for our country, to stay hopeful for our family, to stay hopeful for our world. Yeah. I feel emotion is something is so serious that I have also worried, for the employee that work in the Chiau, because when we are locked down too long, we can't help to think negatively. So I am grateful that I have a group of friends, brother and sister in Christ that willing to listen to me when I have a negative emotion. If today, any one of you, you feel that, you know, the environment has actually crushed your emotion, don't avoid it. You know, take the courage, you know, came to any one of us here, you know, clear the rubbish. And for me, I give my life to God. That's where God had changed my life, you know. Compared to the crisis when I was 13, 14 years old, I look at today's crisis, it's nothing to me. Back then, the crisis I was facing was even worse, but God had overturned it. So if God can overturn my crisis, I believe that it can also overturn the crisis that you are facing, the relationship that you are facing, the health that you are facing, whatever thing that you're facing, I believe that God can overturn it. So thank you, Raymond. That's where my sharing comes to the end.